Gotcha for Life and Black Magic Woman podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land which we recorded this episode. We also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from where you, the listener or viewer, are tuning in. We would like to pay our respects to elders both past and present. We acknowledge that this land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. This podcast talks about mental health, suicide, and lived experience. If that brings anything up for you, please take care while listening. And remember, you don't need to worry alone. Welcome to Mental Fitness Conversations, a podcast about how real people build their mental fitness through connection, community, and simple everyday actions. Brought to you by Gotcha for Life in partnership with Black Magic Woman. Here's your host, Mundanara Bayles.
Nice to have you back to listen to another amazing episode of the Gotcha for Life and Black Magic Woman podcast partnership series. We're yarning with mob from right across the country, and we are here to talk about resilience, culture, community, connection, and also about building your mental fitness. It's very important for us as black fellas to be able to have or even make space for these conversations. I really do hope that you enjoy this yarn coming from the beautiful lands of the Camaragal people, which is just over the Harbour Bridge here in Sydney. And growing up here in Redfern, I was introduced, well, actually, before I was even born, Uncle Dave was part of our family growing up back in the 80s. And Uncle Dave, who's my guest today, is an elder, also a respected boxer back in the day, right? One of your achievements in the boxing world. But you've also had some experience, Uncle, back in those early days, working with the police force as the first Aboriginal liaison. I remember you back in those days, and that was like, you know, really kind of, it was a big thing in our community to see one of our mob working in the police force and trying to support our community. But here we are today, and I can't wait for you to hear Uncle Dave's story. So, Uncle, the best person to tell your story is you. So do you want to share with my listeners, and now we've got people on YouTube watching this right around the world, tell us who you are, your name, your mob, and a little bit about where you grew up.
Yeah, Yama. You know, it's a bit emotional when you introduce me like that, Mara, you know what I mean? Because we go way back with your mother, you know, and Radio Redfern. Redfern is where we grew up. Little paper boy at 7 cents when the papers were there back in the day. But, you know, you learn your tools from your elders, you know, and this is what this chat's all about. And it's about listening to your muckers, opening them muckers, to listening to our aunties, our uncles, you know, our activists back in the day, because they brung Muhammad Ali here, they brung Whoopi Goldberg, you know, Oprah Winfrey,
Michael Jackson.
Yeah, and
they all come to the block.
Whoopi Goldberg, you know, so, you know, just to have a place where Gough Whitlam handed it back in the 70s, you know, and how the Aboriginal people had to adapt because they come from country areas, you know what I mean? And all that storyline is ingrained with us, you know what I mean, to listen to all these aunties and your mother, you know, sitting around that table, you know, that's where I got my LORE from, you know, so that connection to country in Redfern, where the stolen generation
all gathered. That was like a melting pot of stolen gen mob.
Yeah, so, you know, they didn't even know they were own brothers and sisters, you know, in that space. And we still talk about that today. I think they had a thing at Central Railway Station the other day about the stolen generation, and Auntie Faye Mosley and all the elders come in there and talked about how they were herded away like cattle, you know. So,
Uncle, that's really important that you just mentioned that. Sorry to interrupt you, but there was a ceremony at Central Station here in Sydney, Platform 1 or something, and that was the platform where young Aboriginal girls and boys were then kind of dispersed or sent out to institutions or out to cattle stations.
Cootamundra, Kinchela Boys Home. You know, the story with Kinchela Boys Home is they were given numbers like cow herds. You know how the cows were labelled?
Yeah.
And you can see all the elders when they talk about the hurt and the destruction that's come out. And this is what we want to talk about today, especially about the healing, especially about the mental fitness, like you're saying, and, you know, as a sportsman, to come through that foundation, you know, especially in Redfern, you know what I mean? You got to learn how to fight, especially if you're fair-skinned like us.
Uncle Dave, you was, in your prime, you were a boxer.
Yeah, number 2 in Australia, fought for a couple of Australian titles. So, you know, I had good mentors like Uncle Alan Hilt and Wally Carr back in the day, and, you know, Uncle Tony Mundine had the gym down below where Roy Carroll and him started, where they got a grant, and it's up the top now. So all them foundation, that was a safe place to give our kids some tools, you know, to make sure that these kids come through this platform. And it was for the disadvantaged Aboriginal people, you know, but we shared that space, you know, it doesn't matter what colour or creed. And I think that's ingrained with us and the way that we run our programs now, that we open the door for everyone.
And Uncle, from boxing back in the day to now living out in Western Sydney, what do you do in your community, and what do you want to share with us with some of the work and some of the challenges, even working in community and running those programs for young people today?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this for nearly 35 years. When I was on a grade 8 there in Redfern, and Pimmy got my oldest son Pemulwuy. He got a lot of asthma, so we said we have to make a change and go out to Campbelltown, and that's where I give up 35 years of voluntary work to give back to the community. It's still happening to the day, and we're building all these foundations now, especially like cost of living, the food, and we're doing a lot with minto cobras. So the challenges are that we want to have a pathway for the girls through rugby league, and then make sure that all them role models come through us, we're for our image and trying to make them better people in society, and as there's a lot of temptations there, especially with the youth, like you're saying, like the peer pressure, social media, well-being, but education's the key. And what we try to do with these kids is making sure that they're at school. You just heard what Darren done with Get Black on Your Feet and all this other stuff that we're doing in the schools. And the culture, it's connecting, it's connecting the culture, but not only on an Aboriginal perspective, it's the mainstream side of it too as well, to educate both sides.
So culture has been your foundations.
100%. And, I've had that gifted to me by elders, and, I've gone through my second initiation myself, through LORE, and it's dynamic to learn all this stuff that you can hand on to our kids, because having bora grounds and sacred sites and the rivers, if we don't look after our river, we all die, you know what I mean? So this is what we're trying to teach our young ones out there, to make sure that the river's there to be cleansed, and go through our own little ceremonies to make sure these kids are connected back to our land, and, the river is a big part of that, so that's where a lot of creation stories happen, a lot of the creation stories to the stars, all the astronomers, we used our stars as navigation, and, you can see that our creation stories start with the emu and all that.
And talking about culture, how important is it, Uncle Dave, in today's world, with the work that you're doing in your community with these young people? How important, and how are you passing on that culture to them? You got to try and get them to be strong and proud in culture. Yeah,
well, it's all about leadership, like a lot of the kids don't, us elders are getting a little bit on now, so we navigate about 4 young fellas that learn from us, so they got to go through their own ceremony, they've got to go through their own little law,
yep.
Guidance, these little steps, and yep. what it is, it's, it's building foundation, and yourself, Mara, women's business and men's business, a whole total different ball game out there, you know what I mean? So, and it's protocol for us, we've got Auntie Verna Barker, Auntie Amanda Hall, our aunties, that do that eucalyptus ceremony, you know what I mean? And, you know, it feels like they're really connecting to society to share their culture. And with us, it's we've got a Bora ground out there that's so sacred that they don't even know it's in Minto, and it's only 5 minutes from Minto area, that the Aboriginal men's group has utilised that for 35 years, but 65 years, 1,000 years before that.
Uncle, men's business and women's business is a very important feature of Aboriginal culture. So I love the fact that you mentioned you've got these old aunties here that work with the women and young girls, and then you've got the older men to work with the young boys and young men. In terms of bringing that community together, what are some of the programs that you've been running out in Western Sydney?
Well, you know, you mentioned that, like boxing, you know, 2001, if you go to our website, Young Spirit Mentoring and the WordPress one, you'll see all the work that we've done. I've mentored nearly 17,000 kids, you know, so, and now the parents of them kids, they're all parents now and they're bringing their kids, you know, so all this foundation that we've set up, and we want pathways, we want goals for these kids. We don't want them sitting around doing nothing, you know, and this is where we go into the schools to lay down the foundation with a lot of the people that work in that sector. And one of the things is that we want to educate the principals, the teachers, and bring them out to our space on our lens, you know what I mean, and then capture that education so it streams down to the school. And one of the things with Uncle Des Smith, one of our elders there, he was the foundation of the Aboriginal housing in Dubbo. He was the first one 40 years ago. And Uncle Des, his dream is to have our own Aboriginal school, you know, and that's what we're focused on. It might take us 10 years, but we'll get there because we want to leave his legacy. He's such a beautiful man and he brings a lot to our men's group. And it's all about trying to listen to his stories, because if you have a look at the heartache that he talks about, especially in the court system that we work in, the circle and sentencing, and this is all about this journey on what you're talking about, Gotcha for Life, and, you know, that circle of sentencing, we're the decision makers in the court, right, on all of our people that come through there. It's the last chance before they go to jail, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens with all that stuff? Everyone in that room is getting paid except the elders, right? That's disrespectful, you know what I mean? And we're making the decisions that we're putting these people on like
probation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that journey in itself, you know, I think 267 Aboriginal people that have come through there. We've only had one that's
had to go to prison.
Yeah.
And this is what you do day in, day out, is you're trying to make sure these younger people don't end up in prison. You're trying to make sure that these younger people can go to school and get an education, and also when they go home that they've got a meal to eat. I've been watching you and supporting you, Uncle, for a while. I wish I could do more, but these young people that you're engaging with every day, what's some of the struggles that they're dealing with?
Well, a lot of them haven't got a father figure either, Mara. And the biggest thing with that is that we go into the home, we have a cup of tea, and if we see some red flags there, we're not going to go and ring docs or anything. We're going to give these people the proper referral to make sure that these people are healing themselves, because intergenerational trauma, it's not a myth. It's a big thing with our people.
It's proven. It's scientifically proven, intergenerational trauma. So people should Google it. Trauma is in the memory of our DNA. So trauma is actually transferred through DNA, not through sharing sad stories. So some of our kids, it's like they've got no hope in trying to break that cycle of this trauma.
Well, the education system goes against our protocol sometimes, because they say, and you can't discipline your child, you know, and then this is why there's so many out of control, because the principles and the values that we were brought up with have all gone, you know what I mean? So it's
been disrupted, interfered with our way versus the white fella way. And now we're trying to bring these two different worlds together, and our kids are kind of stuck.
So I think one of the big rewards that we're working on for this healing process is that we're going to take them back to country. We want our mob to go back to country, heal, and that's when the ancestors will guide us. Because I hear your sister when I go up there, Stradbroke, all guided by the ancestors. You know what I mean? That's true. You know what I mean? When I wake up in the morning and you hear the our totems singing, and, you know, we're connected to the animals. We're connected to nature. And, you know, especially medicines and, you know, all this flora and fauna stuff, you know, that we're working on, you know. So it's all that native plants and all that stuff that's pure to us, because this is very critical. Our metabolism through mainstream is not the same. And that's where we fail of having the wrong food that's going into our metabolism.
Like dairy, for instance, because we never had cattle. Wheat, for instance, because we never had wheat.
Bread's a big one.
Bread's a big one. So how do you then, when these young people coming to your programs and a lot of these kids that are struggling, how do you support them? What do you do?
Yeah, well, we've got little steps, right? So we've got a little stream. So we've got a four stream. So we have the ones that are really struggling, that we have counselling for them. We have the right mentor that comes through our pathways to make sure that they listen to the story of these young ones, because that's where it's got to start from, early intervention. And that's what we've done a lot of schools on that. And especially when the kids have got behavioural issues, they'll ring us up, and we'll take these kids out on country. Especially if it's the boys, we'll take them out to that Bora ground. We'll show them why that purpose is there for, and then we'll take them down to the river. So they cleanse, and then they have a little bit of a place where they can connect. And then we take them out and introduce them to some animals and show them some really good sacred stuff that we're doing out there, and we're planning to, you know, to guide these kids. And, you know, you can't explain it to you. You got to live it.
Yeah, you got to experience it as well firsthand to really know what you're talking about. So with these young people, where you're trying to ground them in culture, Uncle, trying to embed that cultural knowledge and that pride in their cultural identity to then be able to go and participate in society. That's a big job. Do you have a team around you to help you and support you?
We have, like I just said, like through the men's group, we've got about, say, 4 or 5 young fellas that are coming through their stage, and they connect to all these young fellas, you know what I mean? So us old fellas are there just to make sure that they're safe and their mindset's all right, because everything's about mindset as well. But these kids that we're trying to think, they're going to be our role models in the future. And, you know, if we can just give them some guidance and hope and tell them our story, and, you know, just trying to build that role model up in society. So not only that, it's the image that we're planning to make sure that they're seen around the thing. So we need help out there. It's all about incentives, you know what I mean? Trying to give these kids a tracksuit or something to keep warm in winter, you know, because if they come to our programs, these programs are very hard. And, you know, like we're putting them through like 7 rounds of boxing, but how this program works, the mentor trains the mentee becomes the mentor.
Uncle, that is such a deadly, it's just like the cycle within our culture. So that aligns with our culture as well, right? Yeah. You're learning from that young person, and that young person is learning. It's like reciprocity. I'm giving to you, and you got to give back to me. Yeah, full circle.
Well, we just the nation's football's coming up soon, and what it is, they couldn't find an Aboriginal dance, right? So we just contacted Darren to get his support and asked him could we use that. His song, and next minute these kids with pride. Next minute we just started off with about 6 kids. Now we've got about 80 kids that want to be involved with this one. You know what I mean?
Practicing traditional Aboriginal dance.
Yeah, but not only that, it's having other people learn from that as well.
Uncle, it's all about community, right? We come from a group-based society, and at Gotcha for Life, we talk about your village, and that you shouldn't have to, you know, worry alone. So building mental fitness, how important is that for even you?
Yeah, well, mental fitness is, you know, like, it's a deep one, Mara, because what it is, you know, we've had a lot of suicide lately, and a lot of people with mental health, and it's what's in the inside. And, you know, our people, they don't talk about that. You know what I mean? We need more awareness about trying to get that out. If you hold that inside, you know what I mean? And what we need more awareness. And I think what you're capturing through this podcast is going to open up a lot of doors. And especially like with us, we're doing a certificate in mental health first aid, and And it's given us a lot of tools through that to understand anxiety, depression, just having them tools to work with that. And then the people that are running that want to say we would be the best facilitators in that.
Mm-hmm. So this is culturally appropriate mental health first aid training?
Yes.
So that's out there?
Yeah, so we're working with a couple of the big industries on that. And
yep.
I've done that course, and it's given me a lot of tools to really sit back and analyse, the triggers that's out there. And, when you go in there and you see these first hands when we're going into the homes, how do we equip ourselves to make sure that we're educating the family members, because drug and alcohol is a big thing in our society, you know what I mean? And this is why we're building our own foundation to get these temptations away from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because that's when everyone wants to go to the pub, they want to explore, that's where they're making bad decisions.
Yeah.
And that's when the mental health and all this fitness comes into it, you know what I mean? So we're working on a big thing like when Muhammad Ali had a bear camp, right? So that's what we're trying to do in a big picture. And I'm going to try to get Mike Tyson to open this. So.
Look out. Uncle, you are connected to community and you're engaging with young people. What's some messages that you want to share with some of the young mob that might be listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube?
Yeah, I just want to, we're only a phone call away, and you can look us up on any of our media outlets, to
social media, on the website.
Yeah, so
Young Spirit Mentoring Program, YMSP.
Yeah, and it's a WordPress one. Anytime that you need us, and we want to take you on our little journey. Come with us, we're there. Get black on your feet, Uncle Darren. He's gone through law, and what we're saying to the kids out there, you got to earn to come and sit at the table with us. You know what I mean? So keep that education up.
They got to go to school.
Yeah. Keep all that fitness level, especially with the football and the fraternities that we're with like I said, with Minto Cobblers. It's a big foundation that we're laying out there with the leadership with that club.
Uncle, I saw you on TV.
Yeah.
You got an award.
Yeah.
What was that? What award was it? On the Today Show or the Morning Show? What happened there?
Yeah, so Channel 7.
Channel 7.
Yeah.
And you won $10,000.
And donated it all back.
And you gave it back to the community.
I did.
Uncle, there's not many people, that I know that every day is a struggle for you. I know that you're not on no big salary and you drive your own vehicle until you don't have tyres. So, Uncle, you've dedicated your entire life to community and you're now getting the next generation to step up. What's some things that you can share with the older mob that might not be involved in community yet? They don't know what they want to do. What do you want to say to them fellas that are listening?
Well, we were out there trying to do, like I said, with Auntie Verna and Auntie Amanda Hall. And if you have a look at the foundations of these two elders that I'm talking about, her grandfather was Roy Barker from Burke. And he was an activist way back then and a huge speaker on Aboriginal affairs and all this other stuff. And Auntie Amanda Hall's grandfather was Vincent Hall, who was in the Freedom Ride.
With Charles Perkins.
Yes. So all these people that we're connecting are, they got huge stories to share. And this is what we're saying. If there's any elders out there that need our help, just connect with us because we're out there. We're looking for more elders to come in there. We're going to go into the jail space, because we're working with Justice Health and we want to make sure that these people that are hurting in there, they need a platform when they get out. They need sustainability, because we find out that the first place they go it was Centrelink, and then they go and pick whatever, and then they get into the bad crowd and fall back, and it's like a cycle. Like
the temptation.
Yeah. So
but if we ground our mob, our community, and our young people, if we ground them in our culture and build those cultural foundations, then they won't be tempted.
It all starts with early intervention, like I said earlier, Mari. You know what I mean? Early intervention. That's where we've got to go back to. These kids, we've got to start from kindergarten all the way up. Because that's where it's going to start. Because by the time they get into adolescence, they're into that peer pressure, and there's so much temptation out there, especially now. You know what I mean? Back in the day, we could get away with a couple of things. Like you listen to Jeffrey Morgan's story. You know what I mean? So all that stuff down. Today, crime doesn't pay.
No. And if we show them the right way and give them the right tools and access to people like you, we'll find that our young people are going to be deadly, quite successful, and able to live a really good life.
Well, I didn't understand practical and theory, you know what I mean? And the first thing we done out there at the TAFE is they said that they couldn't fill the rooms with Aboriginal students. So what happened with TAFE out there, I think it was 1995 that me and Uncle Ivan went up there, and we said we want to run a couple of programs like plumbing programs, horticultural, things that could make our kids more
look at different career paths
and trades. And what it was, when we started them 3 or 4 things with Dave Roberts back out there, we had to get 2 classrooms and we filled them, you know. And I'm very proud about trying to when we done that, you know, because it showed that we wanted to fit them back into mainstream at the end of the day, but we had to start this way where they connected amongst themselves, and all that brainstorming and workshop, and you know, like that's where it all comes in, you know. So just having some aims and objectives and just working in the right, like you're saying, that's what we're doing with these kids, having role models, you know. How good is it going to be when we have our role models that are wearing our gear? It makes us proud in that community, you know.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things, Uncle, at Gotcha for Life. It's how do we support young people, because we roll out programs in primary schools. How do we support young people to develop the skills, coping mechanisms, to be able to build their mental muscle? So knowing that they don't have to worry alone. Who are their community? Who can they talk to? Or who could they ring? Like, we've got to let our young people know from a very young age that it's not weak to speak. You know that old saying, where especially with our young boys, our young men, where they don't talk about their feelings and their emotions.
It is. I think, like, Tharwell Aboriginal Corporation has come a long way, and I think they, you know, as a medical fraternity out that way, Darryl Wright's done a good job on all that stuff. You know, so it's having, like, mechanisms put in place in these spaces that these kids need somewhere to go with. And, you know, like, if you have a look where I am, Ambervale, Rose Meadow, you can just have a look what I want to explain to you. So it's hurting out there for our kids because there's no services there, and it's already stereotyped. Like, you say Ambervale, they say Amber Jail, and if you say Rose Meadow, it says Rose Ghetto. So what's that saying about our community?
What is that saying to the young people?
You know, it's degrading, you know what I mean? And especially there's no services. I think there's only a doctor and fire brigade there, and then they got a Woolworths. Where are these kids got to go? You know what I mean? And parents will agree with me because, you know, we put this into our person who was running for Parliament, Bernard Padell, and trying to give him a platform to say, well, come with us and we'll show you what's going on in our own community. Because there used to be leaders there called John Frew, it was a Maori elder, Uncle Frank McDougall, an Aboriginal man. You know, these fellas were on the front line like me and Uncle Ivan, and, you know, I think there was a ride out there. The first ones they come into the battle, they rang us up, you know what I mean? Where's all these people that are getting paid these big dollars and not seen?
Yeah, we need those service providers to really invest in the local community so that these kids have got opportunities.
Well, there was agencies on our thing, and through COVID, it hasn't come back. You know, so we need these people to come back, but not only the service providers, having community sit in that room as well.
Uncle, we're running out of time, but I'm loving the fact that I've been able to get you in here from we're out in Western Sydney, stop you from doing what you do in community, to lend your voice and your support behind this very important conversation around mental fitness and getting our mob in particular to start developing those tools, especially at a young age, accessing support, reaching out to elders, participating in community events and initiatives and programs, coming down and doing boxing with you fellas, but also for some of the corporations and philanthropists. If you're listening to this yarn, please reach out to Uncle Dave Bell. I'll make sure that there's a link to the website, because there are funds that are urgently needed to go straight back to community. This is a grassroots organisation that has been operating without support from government, so no funding, But every little bit helps. So hopefully after people hear this yarn, Uncle, they might be able to put some money towards these really important programs that's really, putting the kids first and making sure that they've got the best start to their little lives.
And if anybody wants to come out there and do the food with us, we're at Cossugai Park every Thursday and Friday where the elders come and pick it up, and then we take it out, and then we've got a big contract with Costco. So we pick up Costco's every Fridays and Saturdays, and all that goes to families, So
you're doing food hampers and running around delivering food hampers to families so that these kids are not going without.
100%. We've done that for 35 years.
Uncle Dave, I love you. Love the work that you've been doing. And, for our whole community, especially here in Sydney, we're very lucky to have someone like you that's still getting up early in the morning and making sure that those kids have got programs, they've got somewhere to go after school, and they've got food in their bellies, and making sure that food goes to those homes, to the people that need it. So thank you.
It's been an honour. Yalu.
Deadly.
Thanks for tuning in to Mental Fitness Conversations. Keep building your emotional muscles with the free Mental Fitness Gym app, packed with tools, tips, and everyday actions to support your mental fitness. Download it from the App Store or Google Play Store, or visit thementalfitnessgym.org. If anything in this episode brought something up for you, you don't have to worry alone. Reach out to a trusted friend or family member and know that support is available. You can contact Lifeline on 131114 or 13YARN at 139276 for free and confidential support for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a rating, share it with someone in your village, or drop us a message. We'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to follow Black Magic Woman and Gotcha for Life on all socials to keep the conversation going.